All right. One thing I can say, Sunil, is boy, this defense has been suspect to say the least. This last game, they couldn't stop anything for not. This went into the third quarter, by the way. We talked about the decision from Dan Campbell to forego the field goal attempt. Well, up to that field goal attempt, the Detroit Lions were doing exactly what they had done in the first half. They just got the ball and started marching it right down the field as if nothing happened. Now, obviously, we know from that point on, momentum got in the 49ers' favor. They turned it around. They did some awesome things. But do you feel like the defense has kind of gotten exposed or did get exposed in this last game?
Look, this last game, it was a little bit different to me, Jesse, because the 49ers on defense have been up and down. They've looked bad in Green Bay, right? They had looked bad at certain moments in that game as well. But the way they looked bad in this game was what was a little bit troublesome and scary, because in previous games, they would look bad because opposing offenses would take advantages of maybe our weak links. Like they would throw to Ambry Thomas, who wasn't having a bad game. They would, take advantage of, a replacement, a linebacker, or whatever the case may be, right? This was a case where they were going up against the people we want them to go up against, and guys were just missing tackles. Guys were getting pushed around, and the Lions were bullying the 49ers defense. And that's scary because the 49ers are usually the bullies, and they were getting pushed around. Fred Warner was missing tackles. Diamador Lenore, I saw some plays where, guys got the best of him, and it was just, we're not used to that. So when we're seeing our best players kind of getting beat, that's when you're like, uh-oh. And I don't know if our defense got exposed, but one thing I think is the case now is, and this was something that we used to talk about with Robert Saleh as well. Not so much with D'Amico, but Robert Saleh, and I think Wilkes has the same issue. They need halftime to make adjustments. They're unable to, or haven't shown the ability to consistently make the changes throughout the game. So it's like whatever's going on in the first half is going to stay going on in the first half till they get into the locker room, and then they can make some good adjustments. But in-game adjustments are not their forte, or it takes them time to process things. I don't know what it is, Jesse. I don't know enough about how game plans, schemes, and stuff change. But just from the breakdowns I'm seeing in the second half, he was doing some really, really great things as far as being able to show man-to-man and then actually being in zone and stuff like that he wasn't doing in the first half. And it seems like that's been the case in both of these games, where in the first half, they couldn't stop the momentum, but in the second half, they make adjustments that ultimately, lead to them winning the game. So I think that's something that has been exposed, is that maybe Wilkes isn't the best at in-game adjustments, but those halftime adjustments have luckily been enough for us to win a game. So I think maybe the game plans need to be better, especially against Kansas City, because we don't want to drop 24/7 to them and expect that they're going to make the same mistakes that Detroit made.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, the defense hasn't been good in the first half for 2 straight games. Now, they made some key stops against the Packers, but the Packers were moving the ball kind of at will in the first half as well. And then, the fourth down play and what have you, but they were moving the ball pretty easily in that first half. And then you get the Detroit Lions. I mean, golly, they did everything. They couldn't be stopped. And both those teams ran the ball very effectively. If anybody on 2 weeks' notice, and I agree, I don't think the defense was quote unquote exposed. To expose somebody means that everybody can take advantage of what's just happened. It's like when we watched Brock Purdy get exposed against Cleveland. And I said, well, that's great to say that he was exposed or against Baltimore, but you have to have a specific defense or defensive unit players to make things happen. Most teams in the league do not have that to put Purdy on his heels, and that's why he wasn't exposed. Same thing with this defense. Most teams don't have quarterbacks or coaches that can put you on your heels. Unfortunately, when I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they have both of those things and they have it in abundance. So that is my worry. I don't think they were quote unquote exposed, but the things that went wrong in this game can be exposed by this particular team they're about to play in a Super Bowl. And that's where I get a little bit worried, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, these slow starts on the defensive side and the offensive side, to be honest, because you could put it all on the defense, but the offense hasn't been scoring as much in the first half either. Yeah, it needs to be fixed because absolutely, when you have a quarterback like Mahomes, he's going to be able to take advantage. He's going to be able to see the weaknesses in the defense, and he's going to be able to read whatever the defense is doing. You're not going to necessarily be able to trick Mahomes. You can just put him in bad situations, right? The defense. This is a game, Jesse, where the defensive line has to play like their price tag, like Hargrave, Armstead, Bosa, and we talked about it. You cannot have the last name Young in a 49ers jersey in the Super Bowl and not ball out. And we're going to need all of them to be able to get pressure on Mahomes, because even getting pressure on Mahomes doesn't necessarily mean he's not gonna have an amazing game. But I can guarantee you, not getting pressure on Mahomes, he's gonna dice us up. So you have to try to put him in situations where you can at least hopefully hope he makes a mistake, get some turnovers, and get a lead up against the Chiefs to give ourselves the best chance to win the game.
Yeah, most certainly. I have one super chat and then 3 comments that I starred that I really liked as well. So I'm going to go through those real quick. Dazza says, how confident are you in our inside O-line stopping Chris Jones? He destroyed us in 2019 Super Bowl. Not very. Not very at all. But I will say
Hicks is better than Tomlinson. And I think Feliciano, forgot who our right guard was in 2019, but it was Brunskill, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it Brunskill? No. 20. Maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah. I'd have to go look at it. But either way, there's a lack of talent around him on the D-line right now because Nadi is injured and Aminu who's injured. Both those guys are going to miss this game. So that hurts big time. So I think because of that, Kyle Shanahan's done such a fantastic job of scheming around defensive lines with one really good player. So I think he actually can scheme around him. It's just a matter of if those other guys can make plays or not. If they can start making plays a little bit, then I'm not confident at all. But I am confident in Kyle's scheme to kind of get around it, not necessarily the players making the stops. So